If I could go back to year one of my business, before the incorporation, before the tax bills, before the late nights Googling, is this a write off? There are five expenses I would track from day one. And I'm sharing them with you here today because they're simple, they're often overlooked, and they will save you time, energy, and probably a little sanity when tax season comes around. So let's talk about it. Women to women, CEO to CEO. All right. So, look, nobody teaches you this stuff. You start your business, you're focused on getting clients, you're selling your offers, you're showing up online, and the money part, it gets pushed to the side, pushed to the side. But the earlier you start tracking these key expenses, the more deductions you'll be able to take, clarity you'll have about your finances, and peace you'll feel around your numbers. So let's break down the five that matters most in your first year. So, first off, the five business expenses that I would track from day one. Number one, software and subscriptions. So think of things like Zoom, Canva, Dropbox, scheduling tools, things like that. Anything you use to run your business. Oftentimes, these types of expenses save us so much time, right? They help us automate our business. They free up our brain and our energy to do more important work, such as sales calls, getting the client, handling deliverables, working with our team, things like that. And so, although they tend to be small in nature, for instance, maybe it's $15 a month for Zoom, $10 a month for Canva, whatever it is, but you get enough of them, they tend to add up quickly. And so you don't want to forget them. Make sure that you are tracking them as they happen. All right. Now, the second expense, especially if I was a first year in my business, something that I would have is education and coaching. Now, oftentimes when people are new in their business, they want to hold on to every dollar, they don't want to spend money. But I will say that when it comes to coaching and education and things like that, these are the type of expenses that really act as investments. Why? Because they increase our return on investment, sometimes instantaneously. For instance, there was one course that I took a while ago, and the course had a Q&A, an online Q&A where we would all show up on Zoom. It was like 20 of us. And literally through the chat box within those Zoom Q&As, I was mingling with people and connecting with people, and soon some of those people became my clients. I never saw that coming, you know what I mean? But within a week of that course, I had already made my money back, right? So don't sleep on courses, on education, things like that, especially if you're new in business, especially if you know you're going to use the course, right? You're not just buying it and storing it on your shelf. You're actually going to show up, you're going to use the course, you're going to do the homework, and you're going to increase your ROI. Oftentimes, when I buy courses, boom, like it's always worth it for the most part. Yeah, as long as I use it, that part. All right. And just remember, if it's helping your business grow, then you can deduct it. So that's another plus. You can deduct it. All right. Now, number three is meals and meetings. So, when it comes to meals and meetings, especially as a first year within your business, for me, I remember when I started business, wow, I think I was like 25 years old. And back then I had a roommate. And so, whenever I would have potential clients, I would want to meet them in person back then. Now we're like, Zoom. But I love meeting people in person. And so, I wouldn't invite them to my home, but I would walk to the local coffee shop and we would have our meetings there. And I would oftentimes buy them coffee, buy them tea, whatever they wanted. And so during those potential client meetings at the coffee shop, those would be deductible because the purpose of the meeting was business related. And so what you want to do when it comes to meals and meetings where there's a restaurant setting, there's lunch involved or dinner involved or anything like that, you want to make sure that you document who you met with and why. So it's not just enough to just swipe your card and it shows up as, you had brunch at Denny's or something like that. No, you want to make sure that you say, okay, who did you have brunch with? Like, was it a potential client? Like, it's not, now I'm not saying their name, like Mary, but no, who was the person, a potential client, and why, right? Potential client, business related. So you want to keep that in your record, all right? So that's very important when it comes to meals. It's not just swiping it on your business card, it's knowing who was it with and why did you have that meeting, that business meeting, that. Now, number four, this one's huge, home office. So, especially when you're new in business, you're not trying to buy or pay for rent, office rent. You don't need a fancy office space, right? You just want to get started. You want to start making money quickly. And so, oftentimes, we're using a part of our home for business. Now, if you're using this part of your home exclusively for business, then it might count. Now, I will say that there's some nuances in relation to the home office deduction. So you want to make sure that you are completely following the rules around the home office deduction. And I actually have a small business checklist and it's free. You can find it in the description below. So this checklist, I walk you through the home office deduction, telling you the who, what, when, where, why. I give you an example, and I even have a bonus video all about the home office deduction where I'm really showing you visually how to take this deduction, and it's completely free. So grab it below in the description box, my checklist, my free checklist. All right. And so if you know, okay, I have this second bedroom and I use it exclusively for my home office, then start tracking your rent or mortgage, track your utilities, and you want to know the square footage of the office space within the home as well as the overall home space, because knowing the square footage is how you're going to figure out the portion of your home expenses that's actually deductible. Right. So that one's huge because a lot of people miss out on the home office deduction because they don't know how, or they're afraid of the IRS coming after them. But as long as you know that you're doing it right, that you meet the requirements, it's all gravy. And so the fifth one is travel and mileage. This is another deduction that, although people qualify, they tend to not deduct this one or write it off because, again, a fear of the IRS. Yes, travel and auto deduction is a higher red flag in terms of getting audited by the IRS. However, with the IRS, as long as you can substantiate the position that you're taking, meaning you have receipts, you can show documentation as to what you're deducting, then it's all fine. You're gonna pass the audit. It's gonna be okay. And so again, my checklist walks you through the travel and auto deduction and how to track your miles. So go ahead, grab that checklist. It's free. It'll be your number one friend, especially if you're new in business. you know, no more Googling. Boom, you got the checklist. Grab it below. When it comes to client meetings, you're driving to client meetings, you're going to retreats. Shoot, you're working from a coffee shop or a co-working space and you drive to these locations, then you want to, you have a real reason to claim the auto deduction. Those miles count, they count, and they will help you pay less taxes. So start logging your mileage, even if you're not ready to file your tax returns, right? Because let's be real, you're not going to remember all the business mileage that you traveled in January, February, and here it is December, and you're trying to remember. Oh no. In fact, there's mileage apps that make it super easy as swiping right for business or swiping left for personal. And the one that I love and use is called Mile IQ. There's a lot of other ones. They're free for the most part. If you want to get fancy, you can pay a subscription to use these tools. So just get the app, a mileage app, and start logging it. Super, super easy. And you're going to be paying less in taxes. So win, win, win. All right. Now let's talk about how to track these expenses. And you do not need to be an accountant. You do not need a fancy system to track your expenses. And if you're just starting out, like there's really no excuses. I'm going to walk you through what you need. It's going to be simple and you just need to be consistent when using it. So here's what I recommend. I recommend that you use a Google Sheet. Again, this is you just starting out. We're not trying to get fancy. We're not trying to get complicated. Especially if you're not using nothing right now, get a Google Sheet. Open up your Google spreadsheet. And what you're going to do is you're just going to jot down each transaction. So on a weekly basis, you're opening up that Google sheet, and for each transaction, you're logging the date, you're logging the expense category. So let's say it's office expense, right? You bought some pens and some notebooks and things like that. Cool, office expenses. And then you're logging how much. How much did you pay for that? What does it say on the receipt? Cool. And that's what you're doing for each transaction. Um, Also, with the receipts, a lot of times receipts are digital. And so create a digital folder for your receipts, whether you're using Dropbox or whether you're creating a folder within your email inbox and you're just moving those receipts to that folder so that you have records of your expenditures. And I will say it's very important, especially if you're doing like high ticket purchases. So if you're buying a $5,000 course, if you're buying a $2,000 computer, you want to hold on to those receipts, not just for tax purposes, but just for peace of mind. If something were to happen, boom, you got proof. You know what I mean? Very important to keep those. And as I mentioned before, you don't want to wait to the end of the year. You don't want to wait until tax season. I would say set a recurring money meeting, call it a money meeting with yourself. Maybe you do it on Friday mornings. And during that money meeting, what you're doing is you have that Google spreadsheet open, you have those receipts folder open, and you're just filling out the Google spreadsheet. You have your bank account, right? Your business bank account open, and you're just filling out the spreadsheet, logging your expenses, and making sure that you're not forgetting anything. Okay. And I will say again, it's not about perfection. It's not about perfection. You're just protecting yourself from the IRS and you're setting yourself up for success. Remember, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to finance, if you don't log it, if you don't put it down, oftentimes you forget about it. And when you're forgetting about it, you're just sabotaging yourself. It's not good, especially if your goal is to grow. You got to log it. You got to document it. Okay. And remember, you're building your own system. You're building your own system that says, I take my business seriously. This ain't a hobby. This is for real, right? This ain't play. This is for real. And so take it seriously. Now, if this video gave you clarity, I want you to drop the light bulb emoji in the comments and let me know which expense haven't you been tracking, but you're going to start tracking it today. All right. No excuses. The past is the past. So start tracking it today. I gave you a lot of tips and tools in this video. Download my checklist, it's below. Lots more in that checklist. All right. And if you want more support, you want more clarity and more peace when it comes to your business tax write offs, then you would want to join me live. I have a live workshop coming up called Make It Count, happening on June 26th. It's not boring, it's not overwhelming, it's actually fun. And it's built for women like us who want to build a beautiful, profitable business with ease and peace. The link to the workshop is in the description for more details. Go ahead, save your seat. I'll see you there. Until next time, peace.